Hello, my name is Ann Green. I am the Vice President of the League of Women Voters Jackson area. I welcome you to our virtual candidate forum for the 2023 City of Jackson primary mayoral race being held and recorded on June 27th. The election will be on Tuesday, August 8th. The League of Women Voters Jackson area is sponsoring and producing this candidate forum. We are grateful to the Jackson District Library for technical support and to the Lean Rocket Lab for use of their conference room. The League of Women Voters is a national, nonpartisan, non-political civic organization that encourages informed and active participation by all citizens in their government, be it local, state, or national. We work to increase public understanding of major public policy issues, as well as to strengthen and broaden knowledge about our form of government and democracy. While the League does not support any candidates or political parties, we do take stands on issues that we have studied. One of the League's most important roles is to assist voters in making informed choices at the polls, which is why we present candidate forums and provide Vote 411. Our moderator for this forum is Mr. Mike McKinney.
Thank you, Ann. I'm Mike McKinney, and I'm pleased to be the moderator for the 2023 Jackson mayoral primary. It's now my honor to introduce the candidates. Mr. Daniel Mahoney, Mrs. Laura Schlecte, and Mr. John Wilson. We thank you for your participation in this candidate forum and agreement to follow League of Women Voter Forum regulations. Let me review the basics of the format. Candidates are not given any questions prior to the forum. However, we informed the candidates that they will be given 1 minute to introduce themselves and explain why they chose to enter the mayoral race. Each candidate will be given 1 minute to answer each question, with 90 seconds allowed for their closing statements. Time will be kept by a member of the League of Women Voters for Jackson. You will be informed when you have 15 seconds remaining and when your time is ended. You will be allowed to end your sentence and will be expected to stop on time. As moderator, I will interrupt the candidate who exceeds the time limit. The order of the open and closing statements will be alternated, as will each question. This will be done according to last names. The questions that I will ask you have been obtained from community members. As this is being done on the Zoom platform, candidates are asked to manage muting and unmuting themselves. Candidates should remain muted unless they are answering their question. I'll ask each candidate the same question. Should you need it repeated, please ask. Candidates are asked to speak only of themselves and their ideas with no disparaging remarks about their opponents. We will now begin the questions. Mr. Mahoney, would you please take 1 minute to introduce yourself to Jackson residents and explain why you have chosen to be a candidate for the Jackson City Mayor's office?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mike. My name is Daniel J. Mahoney. Today, the J stands for Jackson First. But if you ask my mom, the J stands for just Jermaine. I'm born and raised in the city of Jackson, Michigan, to Daniel Mahoney Sr. and Katrina Patton. I'm a graduate of Jackson High School. I am married to the love of my life, Cindy Mahoney, and I'm the father of 5 beautiful daughters. I'm a former Jackson County Commissioner and former Jackson County Branch NAACP President, and I'm currently the mayor of the city of Jackson. When I announced my candidacy for mayor of Jackson in 2021, I made a commitment to tackle the issues that matter most to our citizens, investing in our infrastructure, increasing public safety, driving accountability, and economic development. And as mayor, I have fought every day for those issues.
Mrs. Schlecte, would you please take 1 minute to introduce yourself to Jackson residents and explain why you've chosen to be a candidate for the mayor's office?
Hello, Jackson. I'm Laura Dwyer Schlecte, and I'm running to be your mayor. I have been a part of the major accomplishments in this community since I was first elected to council in 2011. And I want to see us continue to strive for greatness by fixing our roads and pushing for more progress in our neighborhoods and the entire city. I am dedicated to protecting residents, improving the quality of life, holding our government accountable, and being accessible to you. I work hard, I bring people together, and I am open to working on new solutions for old problems. As a lifelong resident, business owner, and Fourth Ward City Council person, I have committed myself to serving this community and everyone that lives, works, and plays here. This is why I'm asking for your vote August 8th.
Mr. Wilson, would you please take 1 minute to introduce yourself to the Jackson residents and explain why you've chosen to be a candidate for the Jackson City Mayor's office?
Good evening. Good evening. First, I would like to thank the League of Women Voters for facilitating and sponsoring this forum here tonight and for their public service. My name is John Wilson, candidate for mayor. I've been asked more than once why I am running again for mayor. My answer is simple, and that is because I care about our city and its residents. I was born and raised in the city. I'm a graduate of Lumen Christi High School, Jackson Community College, now Jackson College, and Western Michigan University. I'm a lifelong parishioner at Queens of the Miraculous Meadow Church here in Jackson. I'm retired from the Michigan Department of Corrections and work part-time for my brother's small business in the city of Jackson. And I'm also employed by EduStaff Education Services as a substitute teacher for the Jackson Public Schools. I look forward with this forum tonight to give city residents and voters the opportunity for a chance on who they believe will best serve their interests. Thank you.
Mrs. Schlecte, please tell us about your experience as a leader and about your leadership style.
Well, I was first elected to city council in 2011 and then again in 2019. I've worked with 3 city managers, 4 mayors, 13 council members, and a change in each of the other elected or appointed offices, clerk, assessor, attorney, treasurer. And I have learned a lot from each and every one of those people that I've served with. It's given me a great experience and background. I've been in this community as a realtor for over 40 years, as a landlord since 1989, I believe. And I'm a national trainer. I've served on many committees and commissions at the city level and with other organizations. My leadership style is to connect people. It is to try and solve problems and help find the best solutions.
Mr. Wilson, could you please tell us about your experience as a leader and about your leadership style?
Well, as a candidate, I have lots of experience with as a candidate, I have plenty of experience running campaigns, whether for myself or for others. I've yet to be elected as an elected official, but I continue to strive for that. I've held leadership positions in my Department of Corrections career, being hired in as a corrections officer and then going into mid-management positions, mostly as a recreation director and finishing my career with the department as a classification security director. Each one of the positions that I worked in with the Department of Corrections required leadership. And it was the leadership that I've learned with my career with the Michigan Department of Corrections that will propel me to the next level, that being the next mayor of Jackson. Thank you.
Mr. Mahoney, please tell us about your experience as a leader and about your leadership style.
So my experience as a leader started long ago. Fourth grade, when our fourth grade teacher asked, "What do you want to be when you grow up?" I can distinctly remember saying that I want to be a leader. And her advice to me at that time was, in order to be a leader, you have to learn how to be a good student first. I have been a lifelong learner. My leadership style is a servant leader. I'm here to serve our community, to serve the public. I was like I said, the president of the Jackson County NAACP, and I served in that capacity and led in many ways, assisting with changing MLK to what it is right now. And then I was also a Jackson County commissioner and served for 7 years in that capacity. And I think that we've done some really remarkable things in the short 2 years, almost 2 years of being mayor of the city. And I would just like the opportunity to continue that work.
We move on to the next question. Mr. Wilson, please explain in detail what your number one priority will be should you be elected, and how will you address this priority?
My number one priority will be the responsible, hardworking, law-abiding, retired citizens of the city of Jackson. Currently, the citizens of Jackson have been paying excessively high amounts in their water bills and property taxes. While that may not be a priority to some, my first priority when elected as Jackson's next mayor will be to, number one, roll back the water rates, and number two, to hold back on increasing property taxes 5% for next year. They were just raised 5% this year, and next year they need to be not raised as much. Thank you.
Mr. Mahoney, please explain in detail what your number one priority will be should you be elected, and how will you address this priority?
So what I've learned in my experience is that you have to learn how to multitask. There's not any way that you can prioritize one specific issue over another, because all of the issues that we face are important. There are specific projects that I'm looking forward to seeing finished. I definitely want to see the Hayes Hotel return to the glory that it once was. I definitely want to see the continuing work that we are doing in the MLK corridor. I want to see us continue to try to figure out a viable way to fix all of our roads, not just some of them at the slow pace that we've been fixing them. I want to make sure that we address our lead service lines. I want to make sure we have clean and safe, drinkable water. That is super important. So to me, I think you have to learn how to multitask and prioritize issues on a day-to-day basis, and not say that there's one specific issue that's more important than others.
Mr. Schlecte, please explain in detail what your number one priority will be should you be elected, and how will you address this priority?
That question is asked a lot while I've been out knocking on doors. My number one priority and the number one concern that I've heard from the citizens are the roads. We have to do something about our roads. They're costing us not just money for each and every person who has to repair their car, but it costs us in our health because of the noise, the carbon monoxide, the inability for mobility. Making smooth roads will increase the value of our properties. It will increase the equity within our community. So the roads are our number one priority, or my number one priority. I would start by making a list of what needs to get done, including sidewalks and curbs and lighting, and then couple those improvements with our infrastructure so that we can limit costs and work with the community on how educating them as to how we can accomplish this.
Mr. Mahoney, based on your conversations with Jackson residents, what are they telling you is the most pressing issue facing them? And what is your plan to address that issue?
So in my experience, the most pressing issue has been public safety. There's several things that we have been doing over the last 2 years to address public safety in the city of Jackson. Number one was rolling out the group violence intervention strategy as a part of our police department to work towards making sure that when something does happen, that issue does not continue and get larger. Another thing is just supporting our local police department and making sure that they have the resources and that they're being listened to. Even something as small as stopping by the station myself to talk with the captain and talk with the staff about what can I do to support you? And they brought up a very small issue that has been happening that we really got figured out by just putting some lights in a parking lot. So I think public safety has been the number one issue that I've heard from citizens as far as what the most pressing issue. And second to that, I would say would be our roads.
Mrs. Schlecte, based on your conversations with Jackson residents, what are they telling you is the most pressing issue facing them? And what is your plan to address that issue?
Well, I've been all around the city, most areas, and almost 95% of the people, their first and most pressing issue are the roads. And I already addressed that in a short fashion, and I'll get more detailed when I'm mayor. But I've found that in each section of the community, there's a different need. The Northwest is concerned about parks and things for kids to do. The South is concerned about access to grocery store, and the East is concerned about improvement of East Michigan Avenue corridor. So it depends on what part of the city that you're in. And I think that it's important for us to look at all of the issues and concerns of all of our citizens and try and address each and every area that has a concern.
Mr. Wilson, based on your conversations with Jackson residents, what are they telling you is the most pressing issue facing them? And what is your plan to address that issue?
This year is the same as 2021 when I ran here. The three pressing issues are the conditions of our neighborhood streets, water rates, and street gangs. The three issues 2 years ago are the same issues I'm hearing about today when talking to the citizens of Jackson. With the streets, currently we pay an assessment charge to have a residential street. Those residents living on a residential street, if they choose to have their streets paved over or total street reconstruction, they are given an assessment. The assessment is too high. They need to be reduced. Water rates, again, water rates can be and need to be reduced. Street gangs, we need to make these street gangs feel unwelcome here in the city and treat them with an arrest, a charge, conviction, rehabilitation, incarceration. Thank you.
Mrs. Schlecte, What is your assessment of the city's current fiscal situation? Would you propose changing revenue sources or reallocating the spending budget in any way?
Well, that's an interesting question. Changing revenue sources is very difficult to do since we rely heavily on our property taxes, income tax, fees and revenue, and state revenue sharing. I'm not sure where else we could get revenue from. I think the best source of increasing our revenue is what the city council has already voted in, which is increasing new housing and increasing our tax base through that. We've seen an increase by virtue of the value of our properties going up through the efforts that have been made since the improvements started strongly in 2012. I think when I first was elected in 2011, our financial situation was very dire. We didn't have money to do the services, but that has improved. And I think our current city manager has done an excellent job of fine tuning how we're providing services and how we pay for those services.
Mr. Wilson, what is your assessment of the city's current fiscal situation? Would you propose changing revenue sources or reallocating the spending budget in any way?
City Hall's situation is, in fact, this year they will have a $9 million surplus in the general fund budget. That $9 million is $9 million too much. That'd be cut in half to maybe 4.5 million, and that would suffice for a fund balance, a reserve fund balance. That $9 million, again, could impact Jackson, whether it's income taxes or property taxes. Again, by raising the taxes that the citizens pay, only eventually the money that's in. I'm a firm believer in the less taxation will always result in more taxes collected. The more money that we have in our pockets spent will eventually go to sales taxes, which ends up in city hall coffers. By reducing those property taxes, that'll give us more to spend. Our property taxes, and then again, we'll end up at city hall coffers.
Mr. Mahoney, what is your assessment of the city's current fiscal situation? Would you propose changing revenue sources or reallocating the spending budget in any way?
Thank you for that question. So currently, no, I would not recommend any changes in revenue sources right now. I think that the nice thing about our current financial position in the city is we are really in a very strong position. You've got a city manager and staff who works really, really hard to propose a great budget for city council to evaluate and pass. And in order to be able to pass a strong budget, you have to have trust in your department heads because they know best what they need. City council and the mayor can look that budget over, make recommendations. We can change things slightly, but in all honesty, really we're asking more questions about why are these line items where they are? Where are the increases at? What can we decrease? And we have a really strong fund balance right now, which is our rainy day fund. So I think that puts us in a really good position.
Mr. Wilson, what do you think the city can do to reduce the number of empty storefronts and abandoned industrial properties?
Well, number one, have drivable streets. The abandoned properties, the industrial sites especially, are an eyesore. They've been an eyesore for too long. There's brownfield development funds that should be used to either tear down those sites, put in green space, and with that, that would help, again, attract new residents to Jackson or retain the residents that we have. We have way too many old industrial sites that sit abandoned that hopefully someday will be either torn down. And I'm a realist. We're all realists here. We're never going to see those old factories open up again. But as of a short-term solution to that would be, again, to apply the brownfield development funds as much as we can get to tear down those old buildings, and if we had to, just turn them into green space.
Mr. Mahoney, what do you think the city can do to reduce the number of empty storefronts and abandoned industrial properties?
So the first thing I think that the city of Jackson can do to reduce the number of vacant commercial and industrial lots is it all starts with relationship. When these properties are owned by citizens and not abandoned, just actually vacant, the number one thing that we can do is strengthen relationship with those property owners. The second thing that we have to do is we have to work to find new and innovative ways that those properties can be used on the industrial side, and what we can do to work together as a community to create more opportunities to attract people and businesses who are interested in filling those vacant commercial spaces. That is the number one thing that I think we have to work on. One of the ideas that I have is to actually implement a city-run economic development department that has some citizen and businesses who sit on that committee to work collaboratively to help us figure out exactly how to eradicate that as an issue in our community and build more businesses.
Mrs. Schlecte, what do you think the city can do to reduce the number of empty storefronts and abandoned industrial properties?
In my line of work, which is I'm a realtor and been doing that for 40 years, I have seen our storefronts becoming more full. I have seen our buildings starting to become occupied. So I think the city is already on the direction to get occupancy into these buildings. It helps that we have a really good person working in the economic development part by the name of Scott Fleming. He's amazing. He knows a lot of people. He knows how to put together brownfields, tax incentives. We could look to marketing our community better, emphasizing our qualities with our large, help our large employers with their recruiting efforts, and making our ordinances development friendly. We don't need to give away the baby with the bathwater, as they say, but make it so that it's easy to develop a struggling or a building that's in need of help.
Mr. Mahoney, how do you think the city should focus its neighborhood improvement efforts?
Well, a friend of mine has a saying, and that's those who are most in need of resources are those who are closest to the problem, usually have the best solution for those problems, but are furthest away from the table and help and assist create solutions for those problems. So I think the number one thing that we can do is actually go to the citizens in each different ward and ask what their individual needs are and have them at the table to help us assist in understanding what are the first building blocks of your community that we need to work as a city to address. I think that everybody knows that they want their roads done, but the question is, how do we get those roads paid for? Everyone wants a beautiful park in their community, but how do we make sure that park has the amenities that that specific community wants? Those are the things that I think that we would have to do to address our neighborhood redevelopment needs.
Mrs. Schlecte, how do you think the city should focus its neighborhood improvement efforts?
I believe that each neighborhood has its unique characteristic, and we should have strong neighborhood groups that tell us what it is they are looking for, and make sure that each neighbor knows their neighbors so that we can help those that need the help. And we've had some turnover. We've had quite a bit of turnover in our community. with new people coming into town or older people retiring in different locations. So we do need to reintroduce ourselves to our neighbors. I think increasing our walkability and mobility is highly important, especially in the day and age of aging in place and accessibility. People want to stay in their homes longer, and I think we need to make sure that we can assist in those ways, whether it's not physically, but us pushing up our sleeves and digging in, or finding grants or other programs that can help our community and neighborhoods.
Thank you, Mrs. Schlecte. Mr. Wilson, how do you think the city should focus its neighborhood improvement efforts?
Safe neighborhoods, drivable streets will not only attract new residents, but retain the residents that we currently have. Rather than focus on what we can do for one part of the city, the whole city matters. And I know it matters to city council today, but the last couple of years, there's been more focus on one part of the city, which is leaving the rest of the city out. Again, we all want safe neighborhoods and drivable streets. And again, City Hall collects enough from us in property taxes and water rates to get that job done. Thank you.
Mrs. Schlecte, what do you think the city can do to help keep Jackson an affordable place to live for both renters and homeowners?
Well, in an economy that has increased in expenses, that's a tough question. We can make sure that our lower economic section of our community, or people in our community, are educated and help them learn how to budget. We can look for programs like MISHDA to help for down payment assistance. We can talk to the landlords about what it is they would need in order to keep their rents at an affordable rate. That's just a really tough question, but we need to invest in developers who will come into the community that will do working class or 60 to 80% area medium income projects, and just make sure that we have the housing available. But it's a tough question. That's a tough question.
Mr. Wilson, what do you think the city can do to help keep Jackson an affordable place to live for both renters and homeowners?
Lower property taxes, lower water rates. Again, City Hall has sufficient funds to provide us safe drinking water and drivable streets. Now again, to have a drivable street, neighborhood street, of course we're going to be assessed, but currently we are assessed too much. I can understand assessing a property owner, but currently they're being assessed excessively. That's one way to, again, retain and attract new residents. And that's what's most important to grow our city. We will always have the upper class, we'll have the middle class, and we have the working poor. Then, of course, we have those who can't work for one reason or another. But what's most important is for those who do work, whether they are of middle income or of a lower economic status, they will be provided, of course, the assistance needed to give them a decent neighborhood and drivable streets. That is so important. Thank you.
Mr. Mahoney, what do you think the city can do to help keep Jackson an affordable place to live for both renters and homeowners?
So to keep Jackson an affordable place to live, we are working on that right now, and we have been working hard on that for the last 2 years. I mean, one of the things specifically that we've been doing is working on increasing our housing stock. We recently voted to provide down payment assistance to build 100 new homes in the city of Jackson. We attracted a private developer who's going to build 137 homes that he plans to rent to 60 or to 80 to 120% average median income clientele. That's 237 homes just that the city has been involved in attracting developers to make that happen, along with several other developers who are providing and creating more housing in our community. And increasing that housing stock is the only way to make sure that housing is affordable. That education and livable wage paying careers is what it takes to make sure that Jackson is a place that anyone can live in.
Mr. Wilson, residents in the city are concerned about the number of people who are homeless. This is a very complex problem requiring input from city, business, and faith leaders. Please explain your ideas for addressing and resolving this area of concern.
Honestly, I don't think the issue will ever be resolved. But what is most important now is providing to those homeless the resources available. And there are plenty of resources available. I'm in opposition to City Hall taking the lead to open up a homeless shelter, the OTA Wilson School, that they have purchased, will soon renovate and open up as a homeless shelter. I know they're looking for a nonprofit to run that homeless shelter, but right now, City Hall has taken the lead, which I believe was a mistake from the start, because again, there are ample resources out there, whether they are faith-based, nonprofits, county, or state agencies. The resources are there. These homeless just need to be directed towards those resources. They had the choice.
Mr. Mahoney, residents in the city are concerned about the number of people who are homeless. This is a very complex problem requiring input from city, business, and faith leaders. Please explain your ideas for addressing and resolving this area of concern.
So homelessness is something that is very personal to me. It's no secret. I've been open and honest from day one that I have experienced homelessness myself. After my family was homeless, my mother actually ran the Jackson Interfaith Shelter for 18 years. So I'm very familiar with not only homelessness, but the homeless community in our community as well. Last year, one of the things that the city of Jackson did was we had a hotel program that we made sure that we got all of the homeless people off the street, or at least as many as we could serve off the street during the most coldest months of the year. Our next steps are looking to collectively gather those individuals, organizations, and people who know best about homelessness so that we can create a plan for our next steps. The last thing that I want to see is someone outside homeless on the street. And part of the problem that I see is there's some people in the community whose largest fear is they don't want the homeless people in their backyard. And that's just unfortunate.
Mrs. Schlecte, residents in the city are concerned about the number of people who are homeless. This is a very complex problem requiring input from city, business, and faith leaders. Please explain your ideas for addressing and resolving this area of concern.
One of the best programs that I have come across to address the homeless issue is a company that I've been working with to help find a building for a rooming house, and they employ the homeless. They pay them a very good wage, make sure that they get to work, they give them clothes and food. In fact, I met a gentleman who's in the program and was working third shift last night. One of the biggest myth about homelessness is that the people who are homeless don't want to work, and that's not true. They do want to work. There's a small group individuals that are chronic homeless, that are, their individual cases that our continuum of care is working with. The city, I believe that people should come to, the organizations that focus on homelessness should come to the city and ask us how we can help them, and not us tell them how we can help them, because we're not in that business. I don't believe, I'm not sure
Thank
what's
you,
going to
Mrs.
happen with
Schlecte.
TA Wilson. Oh, sorry.
Mr. Mahoney, school shootings are a terrifying concern across the country. What specific plans do you have to work with all public and private schools in Jackson, from preschool through higher education, to help ensure the safety of students and staff?
That's a tough question right there. And it's something that makes me extremely nervous to even talk about. However, I mean, as a father with 5 daughters who are all school aged, with nieces and nephews who are in all of our schools in the community, from JPS to Paragon and other schools as well, it is of the utmost important that we collectively work together to make sure that we have a plan in place should something happen. One of the most beautiful things that I saw was the expedited response to the situation that turned out to just be a hoax at Jackson Public Schools this year. My heart almost fell out of my body, and the only thing that I really could do is just be there and be present in the moment. But I think that it takes a collaborative, intentional plan to make sure that we keep our schools and our children safe, and that only happens through relationships.
Mrs. Schlecte, school shootings are a terrifying concern across the country. What specific plans do you have to work with all public and private schools in Jackson, from preschool through higher education, to help ensure the safety of students?
I'm no expert in that field. In fact, I don't have children in school anymore, and my grandchildren are not. Well, I have a grandchild that is in 2nd grade. And I would listen to what the school authorities are recommending, and what our police force is recommending, and what the experts are saying, and then constantly review their recommendations on a regular basis and look to them for the advice, because I do not have the answer for that one.
Mr. Wilson, school shootings are a terrifying concern across the country. What specific plans do you have to work with all public and private schools in Jackson, from preschool through higher education, to help ensure the safety of students and staff?
Working as a substitute teacher for Jackson Public Schools, I've witnessed firsthand the plans that they do have in place in case there's an active shooter. The Jackson Public Schools, Jackson Intermediate School District, our city police department, our county sheriff's department, and our state police all work collaboratively in their efforts to hopefully not have someday report to an active school shooter. But I know right now they have plans in place just in case something as unfortunate as that may be could happen. While City Hall could, maybe work with our city police chief and the police department on creating a plan, I just don't think it's something that City Hall needs to be involved with. We've got other issues to take care of. Thank you.
Mrs. Schlecte, Jackson residents are very concerned about violence. What specific plans do you have to work with community leaders, agencies, educators, and law enforcement to address this issue?
I think the city council made a smart decision by voting in group violence intervention. And the person that was hired to lead that is doing an excellent job from what I can tell. She gets very involved with the community. It's important that our police force is on the ground, meeting our citizens, gaining their trust. I think we need to make sure the bad players know that we're not going to tolerate bad behavior in the city of Jackson. Say that loud and clear. I think we need to crack down on noise from vehicles. I think we need to encourage our community to start at home with teaching kids about safe issues and the things that they may watch on TV or the virtual violence programs that they play with. It's a ever forming group or issue, and I think we started with it by entering into the group violence intervention program.
Specific plans you have to work with community leaders, agencies, educators, and law enforcement to address this issue?
As Jackson's next mayor, one of the first things I would do would be to request that City Council scrap the group violence intervention program, and take that money that we are spending on that program and instead apply it to hiring more police officers at the Jackson Police Department. More boots on the ground will never eliminate the gang violence that takes place here in this city, but it can certainly help reduce it more. We have an issue with gangs in this city. On June 16th, Friday night, 10:30 p.m., I know 2 people personally who were leaving a downtown establishment. As they were leaving out the door, they heard shots fired. People were running, downtown revelers were running in all directions, not knowing where these shots were being fired from. Thankfully, there were no bullets to body as a result of those shots fired. But that just is one example of many that needs to be dealt with. Thank you.
Mr. Mahoney? Let me start all over again. Mr. Mahoney, Jackson residents are very concerned about violence. What specific plans do you have to work with community leaders, agencies, educators, and law enforcement to address this issue?
So that's a very valid concern, but I want to start by saying this, that the work that we've done over the last 24 months has yielded great results in reducing violence in the community of Jackson. We've seen about a 51% reduction in actual homicides in the community. And I think about a 45% reduction in bullets to body in the city of Jackson from the 2021 to 2022 year. And I think that's very important to note. The way that we did that is things that we are already actively doing and stuff that I'm already engaged in right now. So I think the plan would be to continue those actions, continue to support their group violence intervention strategy, continue to serve on the committee that hosts the Summit to Reduce Violence, continue to speak with our residents and address their concerns surrounding this issue. And most importantly, we have to work to address not only the surface issue, the effect, which is the shooting, but we also have to work to address the root cause, which is poverty.
Mr. Wilson, please give us your 30-second elevator pitch about Jackson's strengths, followed by your 30-second pitch to make Jackson even better.
Jackson is a wonderful city. My pitch would be to a prospective employer, resident, would be, let's take a drive around. I would explain, of course, the conditions of some of our streets, and eventually those streets will be taken care of. But one of the first things I would do would be to take them around to our city parks. Let them see our city parks. We have, second to none, a wonderful, great city parks recreation department. And also a Jackson County Parks department. That is an asset to our city. Another asset to our city is our downtown. It's a fun place to go to. It was an expensive place to build. With the new roads and so forth, we're still paying on it. But again, the vision from our former city manager, Pat Birch, has come to fruition
Thank you, Mr.
with a nice, fun downtown.
Mr. Mahoney, please give us your 30-second elevator pitch about Jackson's strengths, followed by your 30-second pitch to make Jackson even better.
30-second elevator pitch on the strengths of Jackson and making Jackson better. I would start by saying, in the words of the great late Benny Poole, Jackson, we like it here. You are never more than 1 mile away from a golf course. You are never more than 1 mile away from a lake. You are never more than 1 mile away from a park. We have wonderful historical sites like the Cascades waterfalls. We have wonderful history, world history, and we are a wonderful place to live, work, and play for those who are raising children, who have families, or those looking to retire. How can we continue to make Jackson a better place? We can continue the momentum that we have had through our current leadership. That is the most important thing. We can continue to strive to be diverse, equitable, and inclusive, and continue to welcome all people to the beautiful city of Jackson.
Mrs. Schlecte, please give us your 30-second elevator pitch about Jackson's strengths, followed by your 30-second pitch to make Jackson even better.
I love selling Jackson. It's an easy thing to do. It's already been said, we've got a lot of parks, our recreation programs. It's a great walkable community. Our connection, we're the center of our two state trails. We have affordable housing. We have a great historic district, a wonderful downtown. To make it better, I would say let's improve East Michigan Avenue corridor. Let's activate the Amtrak station, continue the work on the MLK CIA, the corridor improvement. And one last thing I forgot to say, that we've got an event in Jackson every single weekend during the summer. So it is a place to truly live, work, and play.
Mr. Mahoney, what question do you wish we had asked, and how would you have answered it?
Can you repeat that one more time for me?
What question do you wish we had asked, and how would you have answered it?
Honestly, Mike, I think you guys have asked phenomenal questions. That one's catching me off guard a little bit. I'll be honest. I can't think of a question that I wish you would have asked right now. But I'm sure I would have come up with a good response to it. But I don't know any question that I would recommend to be asked in this moment. Maybe where my favorite donuts come from. And my answer, hands down, greatest donuts in the state of Michigan, I think probably top 5 in the country easily would be Hinckley's.
Mrs. Schlecte, what question do you wish we had asked, and how would you have answered it?
Well, I'm going to follow in Mayor Mahoney's steps and say, I'm not sure what you could add to the question. There are certainly answers that I could add to each and every question that you've asked, because you think of those things afterwards. I think that Jackson's just a great place, and we can make it even better. And I'm excited about having that opportunity to lead that effort. So I can't think of anything I could add, though.
Mr. Wilson, what question do you wish we had asked, and how would you have answered it?
Well, I think all the questions have covered most of the bases. My only request would be that we had a little more time to answer those questions. Other than that, though, I think the panel has covered the bases, and just like Daniel said, if there was any other questions asked, we would find an answer for them. So again, I appreciate the questions that have been asked, and again, the questions that were asked, I just would like a few more seconds to answer, but that's okay. I understand how this forum is being run. I appreciate it. Thanks.
We're moving into our closing statements, which you'll have 90 seconds. Mrs. Schlecte, please take 90 seconds for your closing statement.
Well, time has flown. So thank you for the opportunity to share my ideas and thoughts with you tonight. I believe Jackson's a strong community, one that has much to offer its current and future residents. We know how to take advantage of opportunities, we being Jackson, and shine in our accomplishments and diversity. I am experienced, engaged, and invested in our community. Most people know that I'm not afraid to tackle issues head on. If I have the honor of serving as your mayor, I plan to focus on making informed and wise decisions, increase safety and security in our city, grow our economic development, which will lead to improving job opportunities and our neighborhoods. And I look forward to a more prosperous and equitable community. I respectfully ask for your vote on Tuesday, August 8th, and then again in November.
Mr. Wilson, please take 90 seconds for your closing statement.
Again, thank you to the forum, to the League of Women Voters, and also to the Daniel and Laura. The responsible, law-abiding, hardworking, and retired citizens of Jackson deserve to feel safe in their neighborhoods, to have drivable streets, and affordable water. They deserve to have their tax dollars work for them. It is time for those of us who live in the neighborhoods to get a break from excessively high property taxes and water rates we currently pay. Jackson deserves a mayor who will place those who play by the rules and pay their bills as a priority. As Jackson's next mayor, I will do just that. It's not too late to restore the values of hard work and respect for one another while making Jackson a city we are proud to call home. Again, I would honor the opportunity to serve as your next mayor. Thank you for your consideration.
Mr. Mahoney, please take 90 seconds for your closing statement.
Jackson, you know what they say. Time flies when you are having fun. It has truly and sincerely been my highest honor to serve as the mayor of this city. As mayor, I have fought every day to make Jackson a more diverse, equitable, and inclusive community, because that's what it takes to build a better Jackson. I'm running for re-election because I want to ensure that we continue to push for the opportunity and prosperity of every resident in our city. With your support, I put my experience to work to continue building a better Jackson. A city with safe, vibrant, walkable neighborhoods, with a thriving economy and well-maintained infrastructure, creating a place where anyone can feel at home, look to raise a family or retire, and where local government exists to serve the citizens of the community. I will be honored to have your support to continue fighting for you every day.
We thank you all very much for your participation in this candidate forum. Now, Ann Green will make a closing statement.
The League is grateful to the candidates for their participation in this forum. We hope that you will encourage family, friends, and fellow citizens to view this as well. League rules strictly prohibit using any part of this recording by any other person or entity. This forum will be available for streaming on your computer, tablet, or smartphone. It will be found at our website lwvjackson.org, where you can find the link to the forum. You can also access online information for both the August and November 2023 elections at vote411.org, which is the League's voter resource guide that covers local, state, and national candidates and proposals that will be on your ballots. You can access your voter registration information at State of Michigan Voter Services, where you can register to vote, check your current registration status, and verify where to cast your vote in person. If you register for an absentee ballot, you will be able to track your completed ballot once you either mail it or drop it off in a drop box.